Let's turn next to some takeaways from the conference championships.
The week that was.
Aesthetically, there may have been different vibes to these two games, but man, they were both down to the wire, good football playoff games. Did you enjoy yourself on conference championship weekend?
I did. You got two complete ends of the spectrum here. If you're a defensive guy, you got what you liked in one game. If you're an offensive guy, you got what you liked in the other. If you just like good football games, you got it in both. Broncos-Pats was pure defense. Certainly the game to slam all the unders on. They're barely over 200 passing yards combined in that game. And, I got to give a tip of the hat to Stidham for a game where there was a lot of concern over him starting. He played pretty damn well given the circumstances, getting thrust into that spot. The weather obviously coming in later in the game didn't help. He made two real mistakes, which we pretty much said he would basically have to play mistake-free football for them to get away with that backwards pass fumble. Probably not one that Bo Nix is making. May have gotten away with one there, as that was definitely a touchdown that should have been ruled one, though they scored pretty much instantly anyway. The Pats, that is, so it didn't make too much of a difference unless you had a Patriots special teams defensive touchdown, in which case I can certainly feel your pain there. That would have been pretty rough. Definitely think they should have taken that 10-point lead when they had a chance early. A little too bold for me with a backup playing. I get the logic, of course. They were pretty far down the field. But, you could have been up 2 scores with your backup starting. I think you have to trust the defense there, which ultimately held the opponents to 10 points. 7 of those came off of that fumble in the red zone. So I think you got to trust the defense there. A move that will surely be questioned probably all the way through, playoffs next season, depending on how things go for the Broncos. But I did go out to shovel at halftime. I was like, all right, I should probably get out there and go take care of this. Snow was still dumping. Ended up being like twice as much as I thought. And it was all green grass. And then I come in and it looked like I shoveled the snow from my driveway onto the field. It was bizarre. It took like a second for me to actually register how completely different game it looked. But it was pretty great classic football imagery, the snow falling in the playoffs and a nice grinder of a game. It was a good one. Really enjoyable first game.
Yeah, I was going to ask where you stand on the whole snow debate. There's a lot of talk coming out of this of we just want playoffs in domes. Let's see the best players in action. But it does feel like the purists are like, no, this is part of the game. It's supposed to be played in the elements. So are you an elements supporter, Dave?
Yeah, give me the elements. It is part of the game. Look, it only happens for the most part in the last third of the season in a few select games. It's rarely dumping so badly that the game can't be played. And not for nothing, this came out of nowhere. Obviously you could check the weather reports and stuff, but it was perfectly fine in the first half of that game. I don't think anyone would have expected it to be down to the rapid change of conditions it was. But no, come on, it's not baseball. Play it out. You got to play it out.
At the risk of, I don't know, just talking with my heartstrings for a moment here, in a snowball, I feel like this game was about as much as we could have wanted as both bettors and just fans. You got the inspired Denver performance that made it clear there was a world where they win this game. Stidham had a big play early. It's not like he totally no-showed and just couldn't even do anything for this team. The weather took over and it turned into an ugly mess. And in the end, we get the team we probably wanted to see in the Super Bowl. As much as Denver battled in this game, I think everyone's happy to see what Drake May is going to be capable of. And that final play, the rollout left, was pretty special, depending on if you believe the reports that he might have called his own number on that in a blizzard. Have you heard that?
No, I didn't actually. Wouldn't totally be surprised. I mean, he kind of has that vibe to him, that swagger. So makes sense.
Yeah. The story I heard was they wanted a handoff, punt it away. It's over. And he said, no, in a blizzard, I'm going to go take this. And would have been interesting if it went south, but what a play from him. And then on the other side, we had a classic, in my opinion, Rams, Seahawks, and Seattle earned their spot in this Super Bowl by taking down our collective Super Bowl champion before this playoffs began. Are you feeling any bitterness towards Seattle for knocking out our Rams here?
No, not particularly. The only real juice or anything I had tied to the Rams was also tied to my bracket, my personal bracket, and some long shot Super Bowl matchups that were not going to come to fruition based on the AFC representative. So no saltiness here. Both teams would have been deserving, I think, but you just got to give so much credit to the Seahawks getting here from preseason through what they did at the end of the season, fighting through a very tough division, getting here. Tons of touchdowns in this game, very few turnovers, ball kept moving, very appropriate round 3 between the teams. And yet another game where I think going for the field goal was the correct move, and they should have done it. I know the defense wasn't stopping the Seahawks at will, but you could be down 1 with 5 minutes to go. They did get the ball back with 22 seconds and a whole field to go. I'm not an NFL coach. I'm not an analyst, but I always will say, give me the shorter field with less time than the longer field and having to go for it. Even if the Seahawks get a touchdown there, they could still win the game or tie the game with an 8-point score. So, it's possible. Another one, the analytics win out over the gut sometimes. And ultimately, it probably doesn't come down to that. Xavier Smith probably cost them the game with that fumble. I really hate to poke fun at a guy in a low moment, but he looked like a cartoon the way he fell backwards. It was like slow motion, just right over his head. He never saw it in the right spot. Directly led to the Seahawks score. It gave them a 2 score lead that they didn't really relinquish from that point on. However, I'll say if you were personally victimized by the Kyren Williams 39 rushing yards with 40 plus in your bet slip, probably the only black mark on this entire game, you can reply to this podcast on YouTube, send us a DM on Twitter that says bad beat, and I will personally give you a week of Dimers Pro to make up for the pain. I was victimized by this, as I know many of you were, as I've seen across social media and Reddit and the general community. So probably the only thing that didn't come out of this game as a winner was Kyren Williams' performance. We find the end zone, though.
Right. Yeah, he still found ways to provide value if you had the certain angle of him. But I would love to see those tickets. I stand in solidarity if there's anyone out there that got jobbed the way that we did. However, I just have one gripe with this game. Great football game. Seattle earned it. I'm not mad about it. Cooper Kupp with so many big plays against his former team. Was I rooting for Matt Stafford? Of course. And that's why I have to complain that I needed one more stop from the LA defense. I just wanted him to get a 2-minute drill. I mean, getting the ball back with 28 seconds, and that he hits that first throw, I'm thinking there's a chance here. If he just gets to midfield, I trust this guy who has led so many fourth quarter comebacks in so many dire situations to pull off a miracle. And look, even if just the last play, if he just gets out of bounds, I would have loved to see one chance at the end zone. But outside of me getting greedy going to war for my guy, I thought that was just a great football game. Seattle was clearly the class of the NFC. I don't know how you could really debate it at this point. And the Sam Darnold art has been pretty cool to watch, just as someone who has no Sam Darnold stock whatsoever. For that guy to basically be shown the door after a really special season in Minnesota last year and say, yeah, we'll find better than you. And for him to immediately go to a Super Bowl, like that's just a really cool story about resilience. So there you get the emotional side of this as always.